right, let's play the, I don't even want to call this game theory because I don't actually know what game theory is. Like, I'm not that smart.
Heard that's a good show, though.
On HBO, yeah. But let's kind of play around in what the possibilities are, starting with the one that we probably all know the answer to, but we kind of need to ask the questions to begin with. In the ways of trying to find out what you do going forward, right? Because we all know, we could talk about whether we should have known or whether they should have already been positioned now that you find yourself in this situation as the Dallas Cowboys. In the ways of trying to remedy the situation or get through it, would you, one, and two, do you think the Cowboys will look out in the exterior for look outside of the building for any level of assistance at left tackle, or do you think this is all happening internal? Like all the candidates internally are the ones that they are going to go for?
So I'll answer that going backwards. Number two on that question, no, I don't believe they'll go outside and look for external resources in order to help try to fix this. And one, I do believe they feel like what they have in the offensive line room will get them through this season, to which I say, oh boy,
right? Because
good luck with that.
My follow-up to that is like, where are the expectations now? Because I do not feel like you have, like, what you have internally is a line that is capable of holding up for any level of raised or elevated expectations. And that's not even necessarily trying to down the players that you have, which I mean, I reasonably could. You just don't have a lot. We were already talking about the lack of depth. Now you're taking away a dude who was going to play, or you anticipated playing, a large majority of the snaps. Those snaps are all now supposed to go to like the likes of Tyler Smith and McGovern and Willetsko and Josh Ball?
Yeah, that's what this team has done in terms of its investment on the offensive line through the draft. Now, you think about years past where, you know, they tried out, you know, the Ty Nsekes of the world, the Cam Irvings of the world, the Cam Flemings of the world, Byron Bell, and those options did not pan out very well. So the Cowboys could reasonably look at us and say, we've tried to get external resources to help create depth on the offensive line, and it hasn't worked out. Maybe we now go down the route of drafting and developing young players that we know that may not necessarily be ready right now, but in the future, we will have the depth and we'll be able to do it at a little bit cheaper cost. My thing is, and I've taken this philosophy in terms of life when it comes to buying this or buying that, you get what you pay for. So while, yes, you could come to me and say, yeah, we've tried it with external resources, you knew the players that you were going for weren't necessarily going to be the kind of quality that would give you the bang for your buck that you were looking for. So now you're coming to me, going down the great value aisle at Walmart, talking about, I'm going to go find me the cheapest options possible, the draft, and hopefully I can turn this stuff into something productive for me down the road, knowing, again, here's where the disconnect happens for me.
Okay.
On one hand, you tell me this team is going to try and win a Super Bowl. We're going after a deep playoff run. Yet the moves that you make relative to trying to win that big in the NFL, they don't necessarily connect with how you're building your roster. So if you're going to tell me on the one hand, I'm building toward a Super Bowl championship team, while the resources that you're putting out on this team don't necessarily match the expectations, somebody's lying here, or somebody doesn't understand what really is happening with this team. And that's the part where I think a lot of fans get disconnected with is, what are you saying relative to your expectations based on the roster that you're actually building and what that looks like for your team?
Yeah, what are you saying versus what are you doing, right?
Exactly.
Like actions, words, that, so on and so forth. 972, I like your question, but I don't think we can get there just yet. And you know what? I'll go ahead and put the question out there so that everybody can ponder on it while we get to the question, the place where I feel like we can talk about the question. From the 972 on the truckwreck.com text line, 877-881-1053. Just playing devil's advocate here. How do we feel about this year's offensive line compared to the Bengals' offensive line last year? Of course, I think the argument being made there is that the Bengals did not have a good offensive line and they were able to do some pretty great things with that team, all things considered. But before we get there, we have to figure out, what do we even feel like this offensive line actually looks like week one and as the season goes along? Because I guess you could say the path of least resistance. Like, there's a lot of different configurations you could do at this point. But it feels like the path of least resistance, as you drafted your first round pick, was Tyler Smith, who played tackle at Tulsa in college, was moved inside. And I mean, he did a little bit of tackle stuff in mini camps, correct? Either OTAs or mini camps. But then after that, throughout the entirety of your preseason work, he's been playing guard to simplify it for him. the path of least resistance is moving him out to left tackle in that spot where you kind of anticipate, or at least we as the Cowboys onlookers anticipated was the future for this team once Tyron Smith eventually retired, is that would be your left tackle of the future, and McGovern, who has already played a lot of first team left guard snaps, slides in at left guard, and that's your starting offensive line. Is that what we think is the absolutely going to happen, the most likely to happen? Because the other options are let's go at left tackle, or put Josh Ball at left tackle, which God forbid, move Terrence Steele from right to left tackle, something that he's played more recently, and then maybe put Josh Ball, or let's go over there. Josh Ball is more of a right side player, right? Like what is the combination that you kind of see happen?
Well, I don't want to see Terrence Steele on the left side, because we saw what that looked like, and he struggles there on the left side of the offensive line. To me, the best starting five that you can run out there, knowing that Zach Martin is not going to move to left tackle, for me, is going to be Tyler Smith at left tackle, Connor McGovern at left guard, Tyler Biadasz at center, Zach Martin at right guard, and Terrence Steele as your right tackle. If that's the configuration, I think that gives you the best chance to win with a guy like Josh Ball or, Matt Waletzko having to be your swing tackle. Now, that still doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in what I'm going to see in this offensive line. But to me, you've got to start to figure out what Tyler Smith has as your left tackle of the future, and you need to start doing that right now. And at least we've seen, while I don't necessarily feel great about McGovern being your left guard, he has experience playing there, and I would rather have the experience there at that position going alongside Tyler Smith, who did play left tackle in college. He's going to have to develop much more quickly. And more importantly, Joe Philbin and this offensive line coaching staff need to get him prepared to play week in and week out the best way that they can, because this thing comes fast and furious, Vin Diesel, quickly with week one with Tampa, and then in Cincinnati, week 2. Like, as I mentioned during Crosstalk, Vita Vea ain't nothing to play with. Trey Hendrickson, nothing to play with on the edge. Shaquille Barrett out on the edge. Like, they're going to have some real stiff tests the first couple of weeks that we're going to find out a lot about this young offensive line.
Yeah, this is the thing about the idea of, hey, man, you just got to do it. Like, the offensive line coaches got to get them ready. That sounds great in theory, but, like, the reality of it is there's only so much you can do to, like, expedite experience and expedite time. And the fact of the matter is he hasn't been able to put in that time at left tackle. Last time we saw him play
why is that, Reg?
Well, because they wanted to simplify it for him. They wanted him to play left guard. And you did not have a plan for left tackle because all your eggs were placed in the basket of Tyron Smith, right? Okay, cool. We understand that being the case. I think I agree that that's probably your best path forward when it comes to interior or internal candidates. If you're just talking about what you have on the inside, right? And I think if you do that, you might be saying, all right, we need to just write Tyron Smith out of our future plans and go ahead with Tyler Smith being our left tackle, take his knocks right now, and just this is where you are now from now on. But the tough part about it is the last time we saw him play tackle at Tulsa, it was going to be developmental. And he hasn't had the time of the year where you have the most opportunity to develop is pretty much all pass, especially remembering he's dealing with a minor ankle thing right now, so he's not going to play in the game tomorrow. So, like, all of the developmental time where you could maybe, find some jumps in play, you've used most of it. During the weeks of the season, you're not doing developmental stuff. You're game planning for the next week, right? You're just getting ready for that next game. I wonder, like, what it's going to look like to throw a guy who has essentially been converted to a guard back out to tackle when we knew that he had issues on the left tackle, or like on the tackle spot. The tackle spot, you're out there more alone. Your technique matters so much more. And now, like you said, you're facing guys on the edge. It's not just, we'll put a tackle in there or put a tight end in there to help you out. You're gonna have to be out there and hold your own. And no pun intended, because he had a lot of holds at Tulsa. This is a team that, if we're talking about
most penalized offensive lineman in Division I.
If we're talking about some of the problems that you have with this team, and we start talking about penalties, people's eyes roll. And the idea that you're going to now put this guy in that place to have those issues is scary for me. No, not Vita Vea off the edge, Vita Vea in the middle. But all that being said, I still think it's the best path that you've put yourself in. And I think that says more about the situation that you've built for yourself, the bed that you've made for yourself, than the player and those types of situations.
And to end this on the 682, late draft picks and undrafted free agents is not how you build an offensive line. Tyron Smith, Travis Frederick, Zach Martin, all first round.
Well, not with immediate plug and play. Like, because this is the thing. Matt Waletzko hasn't really done anything in like preseason.
Well, I guess I think the point they're trying to make is premium. The offensive line, especially with left tackle, right tackle, we're talking about premium positions in the league. You're not going to find that kind of talent by just trying to figure it out in the 4th and 5th rounds of the NFL draft.
Yeah, it's worth noting that like as much as we're talking about you want some depth at offensive line is a position of scarcity in the same ways that we talk about quarterback is a scarcity position, and why sometimes you'll get an average quarterback getting paid like a good quarterback or a great quarterback is because, look, man, there's just not that many of those that you can run out there and feel comfortable about. Offensive line is that similar way. That being said, right, to the Matt Waletzko thing, maybe if you got him out there and he played, he would be something good, and you just don't know. But the fact of the matter is now you're in this place where you have to have some level of certainty, and there's not a lot of situations internally that I have a lot of certainty about.